Go. And woo, go. All right. Have you ever tried to learn something and instead sometimes get steered in a counterproductive way by an instructor who lacks awareness and or doesn't really understand how to shorten your learning curve instead of adding to it? Today, we're going to talk about the Dunning-Kruger syndrome and its devastating effects on new shooters, especially on trainers. I'm Jimmy with Rhino Tactical, and you're going to learn something today. So as you guys know, here at Rhino Tactical, we pride ourselves in teaching you the actual science of shooting, not just going out there, pointing at a target, pressing the trigger, and figuring it out. We actually want to show you and shorten your learning curve, the science. By learning the science, you can shorten your learning curve much faster. It would take somebody who doesn't know how to use the science about a week longer than it would for somebody who knows how these principles work. By the end of the day on the range, you would be an incredible shooter. That's just by listening to the science and not just going out there pointing and shooting. So first off, let's talk about the definition of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect describes a cognitive bias where individuals with low competence in a specific area tend to overestimate their abilities, while those with a higher competence, like trainers, may underestimate their own capabilities or overestimate their capabilities. And what that does is that makes the learning curve a lot longer for the students. So essentially, less skilled individuals are often unaware of their lack of knowledge, leading them to overestimate their abilities, while highly skilled individuals may be overly humble, not realizing how much they know. So what that means is that you'll have students who are really shy and they'll start learning from people who just give them knowledge. And while that's great and everything, you have to pick and choose which instructors you want to learn from. Now, I always tell people, you don't want to learn one thing. You want to learn all things. You want to take in the information from all the professionals out there, put it in your backpack, and then be able to use all of their knowledge and information based on the given situation that you were in at the time. So today, I observed an individual at a seminar talking about trigger control and never, ever, ever pin the trigger back, because it'll cause maybe a malfunction. It will cause you to blow in a couple of other shots downrange and things like that. While that can be true in certain situations, I believe the individual instructor was actually limiting the capabilities that their students could understand at the time. That is a big issue, is instructors tend to teach at the instructor's level and are not aware of what the student actually needs. Okay, if I listen to my student, he's going to tell me exactly what I need. So in that case, we're looking at pinning the trigger back. I'm not going to tell you not to pin the trigger back, but what that does is that sets you up for just the exact science that you need for an accurate shot. As always, you want to start learning accuracy first, okay? And one of the principles is when you are pressing the trigger, keep it back through the recoil. As the gun comes back, then you're slowly letting it come forward until you hear that reset and you begin the press again. Boom. Gun goes off, gun goes forward, you're bringing the trigger forward during the recoil, and you're pressing again. Now, it's easier for me to tell a student to keep the trigger pin back, all the way back until he's back on target, and then he releases it and brings it forward, like that. Did you hear that little reset? As opposed to go ahead and through the cycle, bring it forward and start releasing it, because they're not ready for that. It's kind of like me going out there as a skiing instructor and telling somebody, hey, just point your skis downhill and go. That's not the way you do it. You start a student off in a snowplow and let them figure out, using their edges, how to turn, right? How to turn down the slope. And eventually, that student is going to end up figuring out that I don't have to snowplow that much, and that's all parallel skiing is. You're lifting up the leg to turn. You're lifting up the inside leg to always turn when you're skiing. That's exactly like shooting. If you teach somebody, you know, do it the way I do it, they're never going to get it. They have all these things going on. I'm trying to pin the trigger back. I'm not trying to pin the trigger back. So that's why you just keep it simple as an instructor, and students, just try to keep it simple on yourselves. Keep the trigger pinned back until you're back on target, release the trigger, let it reset, and then begin. Now, this is for extreme accuracy. Now, the deal is You want to learn your accuracy first before you can move on to speed. And what that does is eventually, just like the snowplow, where you're going to end up with parallel skis facing downhill, you're going to learn to reset that trigger faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until you don't even know you're resetting it. Then you go boom, 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 boom. But if you take an extreme and don't pin it back, then you have all these things that you have to learn at one time. Now you may say, well, it may create bad habits later on. It won't create bad habits later on because you're going to smooth them out later on. Kind of like a high-speed skier is not going to keep snow plowing when he already has evolved to the next level of keeping his skis straight. That is what your shooting is going to get evolved to. It is going to basically get faster and faster. As you learn the little tricks, you smooth out your process, but you always want to start with a basic concept. And instructors, don't overteach. Pay attention. That's the mark of a good instructor. If you can pay attention to your students, you can shorten their learning curve from a large learning curve of a few days to a mere afternoon of shooting if they obey the science and the principles of what it is to learn how to just basically shoot for accuracy. I'm Jimmy with Rhino Tactical, and I hope you learned something today. Don't expect too much out of yourselves when you're out there, and don't disappoint yourself. And instructors, listen to what your students are telling you physically. Be aware of what's going on out there, and try not to impose your principles as an advanced shooter on a beginning shooter. That's the key. As Anthony Robbins once said, he said that, you know, they had all these people out there talking about the secret. It was a book called The Secret, and it's the secret for this and the secret for that and the secret for this and the secret for that. Well, Anthony Robbins came out there at the end of the seminar. It was his seminar, and he said, let me just tell you something. There is no secret. It's a secret. And that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. So learn everything. Everything is a secret, but you have to learn how to pace yourself so that you shorten your learning curve and learn how to master a firearm faster. So again, we'll see you on the next one.